Hi students, welcome to Year 11 Biology and Module number 3, Biological Diversity. This is video number 7 and we're going to be focusing on the third of the three types of adaptations, behavioural adaptations. In this video, our learning intention is to help you to examine the behavioural adaptations of organisms that increase their ability to survive in their environment. So this is the third in the three-part series of adaptations. And this time we're going to be looking at what it is about how the animal acts that can help give it a selective advantage. So behavioural adaptations, as I said, are ones that focus on the way an individual behaves or acts. These can be learned behaviours, which often get passed down from adults to the next generation, or they can be innate. They can be behaviours that are just part of the natural way that organisms behave and not actually need to be learned. Some of the things that can be part of behavioural adaptations may be looking for sun or for shade or for shelter, depending on whether the organism is ectothermic, not capable of regulating its own body temperature internally, so therefore it relies on ambient temperature, the temperature of the surroundings, for its heat, or endothermic, where it does actually have strategies that it can use. Still, in either case, animals can move into the sun or into the shade to help absorb more heat energy or light, or move away. Food avoidance, learning what food is poisonous, what food is not good for you, what food is going to make you vomit. This can be an important behavioural trait or an important behaviour that assists in survival, particularly for organisms that are poisonous that advertise that fact, that have particular adaptations that show or stand out to say they are poisonous. It's an advantage, therefore, for their predators to learn to avoid these particular organisms and avoid getting sick. A number of different types of individuals in populations may use threat displays, may pump themselves up to look bigger than they are. You may have noticed the way that cats can sort of ruffle their fur and arch their backs to try and appear larger than they are. And a number of different types of animals we see use threat displays to try and avoid any actual physical violence, just to appear too big for a rival to try and take down. Tool use is something we see not just in our own human populations, but also in a number of different animal populations, and some quite sophisticated use of tools too. Often tool use among groups like chimpanzees can actually be learned and passed, as I said earlier, from one generation to the next. And birdsongs is a wonderful example of a behaviour, and some birdsongs are incredibly unique, and others like the lyrebird, for example, are just unbelievable mimics and can learn all of the songs in their area. In fact, you'll even see some videos online of lyrebirds that are mimicking the sounds of humanity around them, not just the songs of neighbouring birds. So let's have a look at a couple of these in a little more detail. Remember, the whole point of the exercise is that you can look at different organisms and by analysing behaviours or how they act to see whether or not these actions are actually giving them some sort of an advantage against some sort of selective pressure in their environment. And again, these can be abiotic factors like the heat, the amount of light, the amount of water. They can also be biotic factors like the need to attract a mate, the need to keep out of sight of predators, or to avoid certain types of prey. So all of these are examples of behavioural adaptations. Now, lizards being ectothermic are a good example of organisms that may be moving into and out of the sun at various times of the day, and also for different periods at different times of the year in order to help regulate their body temperatures. The frill-necked lizards also got a fantastic neck display, which is another great example of that sort of threatening behaviour, an animal trying to make itself look much larger and more threatening than it may actually be, to scare off either a potential predator or a rival. Kangaroos have, we've already had a look at some of the different adaptations of kangaroos. A couple of others that are interesting ones for us to talk about. You can see this particular kangaroo has picked a nice shady spot. If there isn't grass, if there's only sand, the kangaroo just scrape away the top layer of the sand, which can be very warm, and try and lie in the cooler sand or soil underneath that top surface layer. Kangaroos also lick their paws. Now, licking their paws is a behaviour, but one of the reasons they do that is to take advantage of evaporative cooling. The fact that liquid is going to evaporate from the surface is going to take heat away, and blood vessels underneath the surface of the skin are going to be cooled in that way. The water-holding frog is a frog that's able to burrow to try and get away from very hot or dry conditions. There are a number of birds that migrate. We've talked about hibernation and the importance of hibernation or torpor being kind of behaviours that rely on physiologies. We also know birds are quite famous for their migration patterns. They do move from one area to another to ensure that they're constantly in an environment that's going to support high populations. And I mentioned too about the lyrebird, which is just an absolutely fabulous mimic. And we'll actually have a look at one of the videos in class of just how fantastic this bird is at learning all of the different sounds in the environment that they find themselves, whether they're other birds or not, to impress their potential female mates. So as we did with the other two types of adaptations, structural or physical adaptations and physiological, how the body works kinds of adaptations, behavioural adaptations are another important group that we look at when we're analysing what is it that gives certain organisms a selective advantage in their environment. Thanks for watching.